Well, welcome, Madeline.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. I've been looking forward to this for what seems like forever, but I only learned about it last week. So I can't wait to get into this conversation with you. But I want to start by saying that you were the very last student that I saw in our nest, which for those of you watching don't know what the nest is, that's our homeroom for MDE, multidisciplinary engineering. You were the last student.
Oh
Do you
my
remember that day?
gosh.
Like you guys were the last
Yeah.
students in there, but you were the last student I talked to
Wow.
in person.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's real.
That's crazy.
And it's been almost a year ago already.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I want the world to know who Madeline is because you're one of our few humanitarian engineers who graduated just in May of 2020, in the midst of the pandemic and when jobs were hard to find, internships were being canceled, just a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I want to hear from you of how you came to Purdue. Why did you choose
Mhm.
Purdue? How did you learn about humanitarian engineering? Kind of, how did you, why did you pursue that path? And then I know you have some very impactful work that you did on campus while you were a student. So let's start there and then we'll move into what you're doing now. Okay?
Perfect. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So my mom is an engineer, so that definitely shaped like what I thought of the whole career path and what I thought about engineering. And it was just really inspiring to see what she did on a day-to-day basis. She's a civil engineer, so she works with stormwater and sewage systems. So just like making sure that we have clean water. And that just like really inspired me to do stuff that using like my skill sets in science and math, and then also to help people. And Purdue was an easy choice for me. I grew up in Indiana and wanted to be an engineer since I was in middle school. So that was just like, that was the school for me. And after visiting through like the women engineering program a few times, I just fell in love with the campus. So yeah, it was definitely an easy fit. And I just loved it. And I started out in industrial engineering. I really like processes and kind of like that human interaction with how it interacts, how people interact with the systems that we make, and how much that can change what we do and how we do things. And it wasn't until I think my sophomore or junior year, I interned at a nonprofit in South Bend, Indiana. And that just really opened my eyes to like the nonprofit world and just like how much of a need there is for people like engineers and people with that skill set in that industry. And so I started just like looking around at different majors at Purdue. I knew that IE wasn't a good fit for me anymore. And I found multidisciplinary. And as soon as I read about the humanitarian engineering, I was like, this is it. Like, this is absolutely perfect. And yeah, so I came to campus in 2015, so I don't think that the program existed yet or was like, open quite yet. So I didn't know about it right away, but then I had a few friends that were in multidisciplinary, so I kind of knew what they were doing. And yeah, so when I read that description, I was like, this is it. And so I, you know, met with our advisor and I met with Ms. Peckney, and it really like just it was like, yeah, this is it. This is perfect. So yeah, and that really worked well. And what I was doing on campus was more like sustainability world. So working for the Office of Campus Planning and Sustainability, working with systems like recycling and like waste that we produce and how do we divert it to uh, like out of the landfill and into recycling, or how do we divert? Oh, sorry, the dog. I'm gonna take her out real quick. She sees a dog and she just goes crazy.
I know.
But
I
yeah,
know.
so just working on sustainability stuff, and then I got involved with the Student Sustainability Council. So that was really just really cool to see like what everyone was up to, and it just to see kids also taking on like this full course load and attacking these big issues like with local policy, with like um, getting involved with the biodigester. It was just like it was so cool to be in that space and to be with people that felt the same way and knew that climate change was a huge issue, and we have a role at Purdue to combat that. So
That's
yeah.
fantastic. That is fantastic. I'm so excited you shared that because I only knew just a very small portion of that. So very good to know.
Yeah.
So, gosh, so March rolls around, we all kind of scatter. You, like I said, you were the last person I saw in our little nest. Um, what happened over the summer for you? Like what were your next steps post graduation? And then let's really dive into this new role of yours. I am so excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was a little crazy with the pandemic. Before the pandemic hit, like in February, my initial plan was to go into the Peace Corps, and that did not end up working out. So that was a little bit of a, okay, we got to pivot, we got to graduate and figure this out. So pandemic rolls around, graduation happens. I was still working for the Office of Sustainability, doing measurements in the each all the classrooms all over campus. So that if a classroom did need to be in person, it could be set up in a safe way and people could be distanced. So I worked on that over the summer, and I also worked for a local farmer in West Point, Indiana, and working at farmers markets, and that was just really cool. And I think like part of this whole thing, I was really interested in like our food system and increasing food access. And working at the farmers market during the pandemic, it really just like changed the way that people got together. This was an outdoor activity that people could still socialize in a safe way, wear their masks, stay distant, but still see people. And luckily, the farmers markets that I worked at, we could take SNAP tokens and exchange those for edible things that we sold. And it was just like really just put that in front of my eyes of like, okay, this is a thing that families are facing and are dealing with. And I don't know if they're still doing this, but they had this really cool program where you could use your WIC money or SNAP money, and when you use it at a farmer's market, they would double it. And so that was just a really cool way. And you know, meeting, single moms who don't have time to cook a lot and are trying to feed their family, like a big part of what I'm doing is not just selling you these products, but also telling you how to use it, like what's the best way? What do I like doing with this? How do I work with it? And so I knew that that's where I wanted to end up, and doing something with food systems, and especially the pandemic made it so obvious of this huge like hunger crisis that a lot of people are facing. And so looking for jobs, I heard about Austin, Texas, and everyone I talked to loved it. They were like, "This is the coolest city. You guys will really like it." And so I knew that with a pandemic, I wasn't going to be able to get like, the best job, perfect thing that you thought when you're going into gym, I'm going to be making this much money. And I was like, okay, I need to adjust my expectations. And I know myself, I need to be doing something that I'm passionate about above anything else, or else I'm just not going to enjoy it. So I like learned about the Central Texas Food Bank, and I saw they had an opening in product recovery. And I was like, okay, this sounds cool, kind of working with my industrial engineering side and also working at a food bank. This is a huge mission. Texas is a big place. So we got a lot of work to do. And yeah, so do you want me to talk about my current role now?
Oh yeah. Yes. But
Cool.
I just want to say that I keep
Yeah.
getting the chills because
Oh,
I think you said it perfectly of adjusting to the reality of the situation, but sticking to your passion. Everybody
yeah.
kind of has that threshold of what we can deal with and what we can get through, but knowing that you had that threshold set that, okay, I
Yeah.
have to be doing something that I'm passionate about and that I love. And so you went on the search for that. And
Yeah.
it is money is a huge factor. I know that over and over and over again on Reddit, and other social media channels where I see, well, how much do they make, and everybody's so focused on that salary range. And
Yeah.
I get it. There, you all should be paid very well. Um, but you're also all humanitarians at heart. I believe everybody that
Yeah.
pursues engineering truly is trying to fix an issue or fix a problem or be part of a solution. And so to know that you were not going to adjust your threshold there of your passion, but also just the reality check, right? And to be more
Yeah.
real about the situation. So
Yes.
Madeline, yes, please continue with what you're doing. I saw that you definitely came in at a time where things were changing on the volunteer aspect of what could
Yeah.
happen what had to happen for new guidelines given the CDC requirements. So talk about all that.
Yeah. So an overview of like what product recovery does is we serve the Central Texas Food Bank serves 21 counties, which is about twice the size of Massachusetts. So it's a huge area, and we're talking like urban and rural spaces. So what we've had to do is adjust like food pantries where you can go in and kind of shop for your own thing. We've transitioned to mobile pantries, so you get a bunch of cars lined up and you like load into their trucks or their cars, and that also changes what we do internally of how we are packaging this stuff and what we're preparing. So we can get donations, or sometimes we purchase items, and sometimes it needs to be sorted, it needs to be gone through, sometimes it's ready to go. So the things that need to be sorted comes through us. We check expiration dates, we check the quality, we make sure that, if you can't afford food, you most likely can't afford good healthcare. So we can't be giving people bad food. It has to be good. And so that's like a big part of it is you need to, you're trusting volunteers to make this decision of like, is this good? Is this not good? And so I advise them, act like you're shopping for your own family. What would you put in your cart? And not necessarily like taste wise, but you're looking at these two cabbages. What do you think? So yeah, so like it's a really cool thing of interacting with people during the pandemic. It's been really awesome to get to meet people, and this has become a safe way for people to get together. We and I wasn't here for this, but before the pandemic, we had like 80 to 100 people in this room, and now we've had to go to 30. And so that just changes the whole dynamic of what you can produce. And all like while we're lowering the amount of people we can bring in, the demand is just going up. And so what we've done is transition into like these produce boxes and protein boxes. So we started like getting produce from different retailers and farms around here, and going through it, getting the good stuff, and preparing like a 15-pound box for a family of fresh produce, a bread item, and a pastry item. And then same thing with like frozen protein, like getting them like entrees, frozen meals, things like that you can pop in the oven and cook and make for your family. And yeah, so it's just been really cool to see the whole process side of things. And I had the opportunity, one of our inventory control specialists in the warehouse, he ended up moving on to a different position. So for his last 2 weeks, I shadowed him and I watched what he did in our inventory management software called Series, and shadowed him and learned all of his transactions. And I created training material for the next person that comes in there, or the people that have to do these jobs until we find a replacement. And that was just so much fun for me. And it was just, really like engaging that part of me of like, here's this problem to solve. And like, I don't know, it just really tapped into all those classes that I took. And it was like, yep, there's a reason I needed to learn this. And just like understanding like how does the database work, and why does it make these decisions? And um, that gave me a huge advantage of how to understand this program and how to use it to our advantage, and how can we work with it and problem solve. And that's been a really fun time. And it's obviously frustrating when something doesn't work, but it's just that whole like problem solving of like, okay, let's try doing this, let's do this, let's work together. Hey, you tried on your computer, what do you think? And yeah, so it's just been a blast. It's been really cool.
You bring up a really great point of what did prepare you for a role like this and other
Yeah.
roles, right? And other roles. But because multidisciplinary engineering is very multidisciplinary in the number
Multidisciplinary.
of the courses and the different schools that you can in colleges at Purdue that you can bring into your electives, because we know that we have the most free electives to help build the curriculum for you, for what you're really interested in. So maybe speak to, I know those were important courses, but what specific courses probably you would say would have helped, did help you the most
Hmm.
in this role, and knowing now kind of rolling down, your path, what helped you the most, do you think?
Yeah. So I would say a big thing was like that industrial engineering base of understanding processes. I took like a workplace design class. I learned, how do we uh, like build systems with queues in it and, first in, first out, those types of classes really helped me to understand conceptually how this all works together. And I think also like tapping into CS classes, computer science classes, which were never my favorite, but really helpful. And even just like that CS 159 you take freshman year, just understanding the logic of how a computer works and forcing you to think creatively and how to address a problem that's not just like, oh, there's this perfect function that exists and it solves all my problems. That no, that never really happens. So it's like you got to build it and build it together. And I would say also like going outside of engineering, I took a lot of like political science classes and just understanding the way that like people work together and the way that people interact with these systems. And a big part of it is that we're relying on volunteer help, and that's just, and you can't look at it as just a system of mechanics and just computers, because it's just not true, and that's not what anything is. So yeah, and then I think I will always love the ethics program. That was, I think, so foundational to what I do and how I interact on a team, and the project management skills you learn and how to create a timeline that's realistic. Like all of that was so important to have those skills. So I'm not just learning that day one, but I can build on it and work with it. And I think that was huge too, because you're not just working on a team of people in your year or your major, you're working with all types of different engineers, all types of like freshmen, first semester, senior design students. Like it's also different. And I think that's also been kind of an adjustment too, is that I'm not just working around a bunch of 20-year-olds anymore. It's like working with people from different generations and understanding how you like can work together and kind of cross train each other. And there's things that I can teach them and they can teach me, and that's an important flow to work together. And I think that's been just like kind of like leaving college, going out to the real world, interacting with different people, and I think that really helped me prepare for that.
You are so far ahead. I was literally going to ask, how did teaming from your
Yeah.
classes at Purdue help? Oh my gosh. And I hope people that listen, and I especially students who are listening, understand that, I mean, teaming is a huge part of what we
Huge.
do through engineering, throughout, and ethics especially. I mean, beyond first year, right? We try to
Yeah.
introduce it in first year. I think we do a great job in first year, at least with the peer assessment, the self-assessment, the how to work in teams. But you're right, you're not always going to work with people your own age. And
Yeah.
those that were purposefully put together based off of data that we know will help them become better engineers. So now
Yeah.
you're really putting it to the test. And I love that you're learning from others, as you are probably always going to be perfecting this process and
Yeah.
knowing now that you get to see the inventory side of it. Oh my gosh, Madeline, this is just, I'm so proud of you. I
Oh,
am. I'm
thank you
so
so
proud of
much.
you. And because I know how hard it is to get in that role, first of all, to
Yeah.
really to break the mold, get in that role that you really want, and then to really shine. And you're
Yeah.
shining so bright. And I um just bringing together everything that you learned at Purdue. And then think about this, had there been no pandemic, you wouldn't have worked at the farmers market to see
Yeah.
a need and to see opportunities to work with the moms that needed to know how to use the food. Now you're
Yeah.
working in just I mean a much bigger outlet to do bigger
Yeah.
things. How much interaction do you have with the flow of the system, with the cars coming in to get the food? What's that been like for you? Because I can't even imagine. Austin,
Yeah.
Texas is huge. I mean,
Huge.
the did you say 21 counties
Yeah.
that you,
Yeah, it's
oh my
huge.
gosh.
So I actually volunteered at one of the mobile pantries in the fall, and it was a Saturday that myself and my partner had off. So we were like, "Hey, let's go do something together." And it was just eye-opening and obviously puts everything into perspective, but was just like, "Oh my gosh." And then all the time you're like, "This is a crazy phenomenon that's happening." But then your engineering side is like, "Oh my god, they're coming in a line and we got to go quicker, and how do we do this and how do we share the produce and all that stuff." So, yeah, so how those work is like So people line up hours before it starts. It will start at like 10 a.m. And so they line up, and people on our team go in and intake their information. So how many households are you picking up for? Things like that. Like, have you been here before? Like things like that. Where do you live? What's your zip code? And so intake all their information. They line up in order. We take in 4 cars at a time, and we have 4 stations set up, and we put a little cone on top of their car to mean, "Don't go, this one's not ready." They have a sticky note on their window that says 1, 2, 3, because, we wanna limit the amount of time that we're interacting face to face. We see the number, so the one I went to, we had a bunch of turkeys, it was right before Thanksgiving. We had a produce box, and a big thing of like frozen chicken patties. And so you're just loading it in, saying hi when you can, and just like the wide range of people of, little kids, older people, all this stuff. And it was just like, wow, this is so important. And they're picking up for their household. And the next time this will happen will be 2 weeks from now. And so trying to stretch that out. And yeah, and that was in Fredericksburg, so a little bit more of a rural area, not right in the city, and it's just like it just puts everything into perspective of what we do and how we do things. And so to see that, and then to come back into work, and it's like, okay, we got to go harder. We got to make more. And we at one point we ran out of the produce boxes, so we had to switch over to a different type of box of more like canned preserved food. And just knowing that like how important it is to get fresh raw veggies to people, and like that's so good for you and so important for you to like have that relationship with your food like that. And yeah, it was just really just like a powerful moment to be there. And I don't know if you saw this or if I mentioned this earlier, but I'm actually moving into a different role on Monday. Yeah. So it's still with the food bank, but I'm going to be transitioning. Right now, I'm in the operations part, and I'm going to be transitioning into like the program side. I'll be a partner services coordinator. So I'll be we work with 250 partner agencies. So small food banks, large food banks, food pantries out of a church, things like that. And yeah, so I'm really grateful for this, like, to understand the warehouse side, the process side of how we prepare the food. And then now I'll be working with these partner agencies that are ordering from us, and they use like a variety of different softwares. So I'll be helping people like troubleshoot how they report data to us. Because we're a nonprofit, we have to report a lot of the people that we serve. We work with the USDA, things like that. So yeah, so I actually start that on Monday. So I'm really, really excited to do that.
That's exciting. How did that come about? Is this a new role for them because they knew your capabilities, or is this something that you wanted to apply for and got? How did that process happen for you?
Yeah. So I think that it did exist, but it's been in kind of a transitional space, definitely because the pandemic, but also as the food bank grows, like how do we better serve these groups? And so we have like a self-assessment that we do on a yearly basis. And I had mentioned that I want to know more about how all of the stuff works together. I wanted to learn more of the software side. And based off of that self-assessment and evaluation, my manager talked to me and let me know that someone that was we have this program that's like we make boxes for seniors that are housebound. And so that's like a program that we do. The guy who was running that was leaving, moving on. So then someone was filling his role, and then now this role was open. And so he was like, I think you would be a good fit. I want you to, apply. Even if you don't get it, you'll learn about how the interview process works, get some experience. And I was like, yes, please. I want to do this. It's so cool. And yeah, so I went through an interview process that I think started in like December, and got to do Zoom interviews, and which is a little different than doing it in person. And yeah, so I'm so excited. They're really great people. And it's really nice to be in a space where like people recognize what you can do and are like, hey, I think you would be really good with in this space. And that was kind of my game plan all along, is like I I'm not from Austin. I've never been here before. And so to get involved in the nonprofit world, you got to know people. You got to have this network and connections. And so I was like, let me just get in that space. And if I can just show them what I can do, I know they're going to want me. And I know that I can do these things. So, yeah. And I love my time in product recovery. Like I've met literally the most amazing people, and it's been so helpful to like have those connections, especially in a time where I can't go out and socialize and meet people in a normal way. But yeah, so this is just a really fun time and just really rewarding, and really just makes you feel good.
It's essential work. I mean,
Yeah,
we hear all the time about essential workers. I mean, the volunteers that you're working with, let alone the people
yeah,
that you get to interact with, because of the essential need
yeah,
for food. I was going to ask you, talking to your manager and when you applied for the very first job that you got into, humanitarian engineers, multidisciplinary engineers, those are two not very common titles that you can come in,
yeah.
with a degree. So I'm sure it helped you in both of those. I'm sure it did. But what was maybe some of the feedback that you got? Like, what you got
Yeah.
a degree in what?
What is that?
I really am curious because there's not very many of you as far as humanitarian engineers, let alone,
Yeah.
we have a lot of multidisciplinary, but usually they'll voice more their concentration than they will multidisciplinary engineering. So how did that play a part in all of this in your career path there?
Yeah, so yes, always have to explain it to everyone, and, but that's always just the fun of it, and then I love talking about Purdue, so that's an easy topic for me, but, yeah, so definitely having to, like, yeah, this is what it is, this is what I did, this is my background, and, I just think it's really cool, like, obviously, I love the major, and I think it's awesome, and, but I think it just opens a door for conversations and to connect to people because, like, obviously, if you're at a food bank volunteering, working, doing any association, you have that part in you, and so, I don't know, I think it's definitely, a conversation starter, opens the doors, and I think just shows literally, like, the multidisciplinariness of what we do, and like to be able to pull on like, well, these are the classes I took, these are the projects I worked on, these are the groups I worked with, and this created this really what I feel like is a well-rounded like major and course load that has prepared me to be in this space. And yeah, so yeah, I think that's just been like, I mean, it's a little bit like, what are you talking about? What is this? How does that work? But yeah, and just, like, really cool, especially, like, I've gotten to meet, like, we get volunteer groups from, like, different work, like, different companies and stuff will all volunteer, so we've gotten a few engineering firms, and so they're really like, "Oh, what does that mean? Like, how does that work?" And yeah, so I think it's really fun to talk about and just to really show, yeah, so this is how I ended up here, I'm really interested in nonprofits and processes and just making them better and just working together, and yeah, so yeah, I think it's a fun introduction and just like a cool way to just show like, what we are and how it works. And just that opportunity even exists at Purdue, I think is just crazy and awesome. And like really, I think it's so important that that work of being a multidisciplinary engineer, no matter which concentration, that's so important. It's so rare that you only work in one field, only work with one type of person. And so like you need to know, how do I build this together and how do I pull this different information together in a way that's productive and helpful, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying. Oscar Otero and I had a conversation last night that I'll be posting, and we both agreed we just can't take them all. But
Yeah.
we know that those that end up in MDE and
Mhm.
IDE, they're there for a very good reason, and it's
Yeah.
getting them on the pathway to success. I mean, whatever they're passionate about, it's going to get them there one way or
Yeah.
another. It'll get them there. So speaking of that, okay, first of all, I think I need to send you a Purdue University mask that you can wear there. I mean, if you don't have
I would
one,
love
I
that.
I feel like I need to send you one. So I'll be asking for your address. I'll get you one or two or three. Um, maybe even one with multidisciplinary engineering, but I'll have to work on that.
Ooh.
That'll
Okay,
be
okay.
later. We don't have those right now, but maybe. Um, what advice do you have for students who are interested you talked about, specifically, well, overall multidisciplinary engineering, that it's a great program, and you were so lucky to have it at Purdue. I know we are lucky to have that program existed now for over 50 years, and all of our very unique, wonderful alumni who go through this program. What advice do you have for students who really just don't know? They're all going through the transition to major right now, literally as we speak. That'll be
Yeah.
finishing up here in the next couple weeks. And what's some advice? Why should they pursue it? And
Yeah,
maybe even talk to humanitarian engineering. Why is that a good fit? Why was that a good fit for you? We know the passion, but what I guess what should they know?
yeah. I just think like if you don't feel like one of the other like majors outside of multidisciplinary, if there's any inkling of like I need a little something more, or I know in my experience it felt like I was like taking in this information and I had to put it into a different lens to apply it to what I wanted. And I think if you're having those feelings, you need to explore multidisciplinary. And I think like to me, it just I wish that I could have just started out freshman year that way and just opened up all those doors, because like especially if you don't know exactly what you want to do, just taking all those different classes and understanding that it's like this is for you to educate yourself, and this is for you to be the engineer that you want to be, and that engineering is not what it was 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It's so different, and it's so big, and you can apply it to so many different things. So I think like what I would give advice to someone is like look at what you do outside of classes. What is it that sparks you? What do you like to work on, or like what clubs are you interested in? And how does that fit in with classes that you're taking? And just outside of like just the passion, but what clicks, and what kind of people are you talking to that you're like, okay, this is what I want to work on. This is what I like. And I think just going out there and exploring things, going to the seminars, going to different career fairs. I obviously, we all go to Industrial Roundtable, but going to like the ag career fair and just like learning about these different opportunities that exist. And there's just so many people there and so many backgrounds and experiences, and like the people pursuing a master's degree, a PhD, things like that, like they have so much information and knowledge to give, and to learn from them and learn from their experiences. So I think just like if you're feeling a little bit like I don't fit in this box, I don't fit in this box, there is a box for you. You just have to find it. And I think just like giving yourself the permission to explore that and to take the different classes. And there are core classes that we all have to take, but you can still take a unique thing from that and fit it into your own toolbox. So like I just think like that whole thinking of it like a toolbox, like what am I pulling from this? I know I'm not going down a typical route, but I can still, that doesn't mean that I'm just not going to do anything. It means I'm going to do it differently. And yeah, so I think just like being open to that, and not feeling so pressured to be a certain thing that you thought you were going to be when you were 18 years old. It changes, you change, the world changes, like, everything is different. So yeah, I think just being open to those opportunities and to those lessons, and just talk to the people around you. You have to put in a different effort now because of the pandemic. It's not going to be as easy, but this is a cool way for you to, the whole world is going through this pandemic. It's not just happening to just you. So there's a way that you can still make it work for you, and you can still find these things out. So yeah, that's the kind of advice I would give to someone.
Oh, I'm gonna pull that nugget out right there and share that, just that right there. That was such great advice.
Thank
And
you.
I loved the vision that you gave of having when you were trying to adjust the lens. That is
Yeah.
just I love that, because I know exactly what you're saying. When you're constantly trying to take what you learn and adjust to what you're trying to do, when there's a program that does that with
Yeah.
you, instead of
Yeah.
always having to constantly, it's like wearing three pairs of glasses,
Yeah.
hats, trying to figure that out, that now you really just have to do one. wear
Yeah.
one pair of glasses
Just
or
one.
use
It's
one
a lot
lens. Yeah.
easier.
Yeah. And that the pandemic isn't happening to me or you.
Yeah.
It's happening everywhere. And there are great things coming out of this time. And
Yeah.
you are one of those examples of these great things and people who are doing great things of and taking, I shouldn't say full advantage, but um all the opportunities coming to you. And I mean, if there was ever a time in need of a humanitarian engineer, it's now.
Is it?
And I'm going to refer to a conversation with Oscar that um, we were talking about Ellie Wing, who just graduated in December from acoustical engineering. And
Oh,
she
cool.
said in an interview a while ago, she wants acoustical engineering for Purdue to be known as for the acoustical engineering.
Yeah.
I think that humanitarian engineering might be up there too. I mean, the things that you're doing, I know that the Peace Corps really needs people like you, but we're so thankful that you that you're where you're at and what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I know Central Texas would not be doing what they're doing without you. So I'm so glad that we were able to have this talk and to hear
Yeah.
um, just the full circle of what you did at Purdue, how you brought it in. You really opened my eyes to even just I love the teaming. I love everything that you talked about. I just it's going to inspire people. I just
Yeah.
know it, and I'm just so happy that we were able to take this time. And I know that.
Yeah.
Do you have to get on to work? Are you like on a?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. So I don't want to keep you any longer than than we need. So thank you, Madeline.
Yeah. Thank you so much.